Dark is some of the best television I've ever seen, and I don't say that lightly. It has done things that I've never seen from another piece of media. Honestly, when I first approached the series, I didn't expect much from it. I was simply searching Netflix for something to occupy my time, and this small, at the time not very well known, German show could serve that purpose as good as any. Yet after sinking some time into the first season, my mindset entirely changed. This show demanded my attention. It was like nothing I'd ever watched. I've heard it compared to Twin Peaks, but that never had quite the grip on me like this show did. Something about this show feels totally unique, but at the same time, some of this show's sticking points can be its downfall. The show starts as a mystery, but becomes less so the further you progress, which, now that I think of it, describes all mystery stories. Yet what is so unique about this one is that the answers are never satisfying, not because they're poorly written or executed, but because it simply pulls you deeper into questioning the nature of the story, its characters, and the mechanisms of the world. The secret of Dark's enticing plot is to always leave the viewers analyzing, questioning, and looking to the future, or past, or the other world. Look, it gets complicated fast. Each season manages to add another layer, and that is one of the things that can be reason to dislike the series, the intricacy. You see, Dark is a lot like a clockwork apparatus of various cogs, springs, and levers. Each piece has an impact on the next. Everything is connected. Yet in this machine, some gears can impact the previous, or those multiple places ahead. This can be a great thing. Like I said earlier, this lends itself towards getting the audience themselves to question things, to wonder what will happen in the future, and to wonder what has already happened. It's a great method to engage people, but at the same time it can be a major turnoff. Picture this. You're searching Netflix for a way to spend your time, just as I was. You're planning on starting a new series, one you can come to occasionally for a little bit of relaxation and perhaps a mental break from whatever has been going on. Dark doesn't offer any of that, in the slightest. In fact, I would argue this show is the exact antithesis of what that type of viewer would be looking for in a show. Complexity and the need for intense focus are not something everybody wants, especially not constantly. I myself found that on a daily basis my desire to put the effort into watching the show waxed and waned. Many of Netflix's viewers and even the wider net of TV audiences are looking for shows with a less convoluted structure. If you're looking for dramas, there are slightly more grounded dramas. If you're looking for sci-fi, you could easily watch something else like The Expanse or Star Trek, without having to worry about who is related to who or what series of events led to each other before looping back in on themselves. The point being, other shows offer the core aspects of Dark without the mentally demanding work being necessary to fully enjoy it. Many other shows have the capability of more complex structure and analysis, but Dark requires it in order to even be understood. Part of the problem with demanding your audience's sustained attention is that not everybody will be willing to give that to you, and some can be put off entirely. Memory itself also becomes a precious commodity when watching Dark. Hell, Netflix created an entire website so you can simply keep track of everything that has been occurring within the show. That way your brain doesn't get fried from how much information you're trying to recall. There are, by my estimate, about 38 whole characters to keep track of, most of which have at least 3 short paragraphs of information on their story, spanning over a number of episodes. This is not to even mention the object and time portions of the story. Even once you've gotten everything straightened out within your head, that's a hell of a lot of information to keep in mind. The issue is that you are required to remember all of it in order for the story to make complete sense, because, as previously stated, almost every facet is connected to each other. Granted, you have the website for that, but for one, the website, despite what it may say, does not always have the information you require. The big things are the focus of the website, but much of the slightly less important information is not readily available. Despite that, it becomes incredibly tedious to continuously go back to the website if you do not have the majority of the information within your memory. Another issue also comes to light with that of memory, something I noticed myself after taking short breaks from the series. Breaks are detrimental to the flow of watching the show. The reason is that there are so many details to recall that many of them get forgotten when you're no longer taking the time to linger on them. I took a 3-day break and then hadn't the foggiest idea where the story left off, partially because I was being forced to remember multiple characters' stories in parallel. I found that being forced to remember these multiple stories was taxing, and even if I did recall some of it, I likely did not have all of the information necessary to catch myself back up to the present. Oftentimes I couldn't even remember what the present was. The show seems best formatted to be binge-watched, which can be both a positive and negative aspect considering it's on a streaming service. However, binge watching is simply not always preferable for most viewers, and the fact that it's bordering on a requirement is off-putting. Mind you, these difficulties could partially be my own problems, but I think it is an issue with the show's core concept as well. In addition, I find that another one of the draws of the show's core concept can be a negative, that being temporal dissociation. If I haven't discussed temporal dissociation on this channel yet by the time this comes out, I will. To put it simply, it's a fancy way of saying time is made to not be linear. Obviously, this is a core aspect of the show, it being about time travel. Some of my points on this tie back to intricacy, so I'll be short and sweet with it. Temporal dissociation can be confusing, and at times disrupt the revelations which are so critical to the enjoyment of the show. I might, for instance, miss when a detail from multiple episodes ago is brought back up and explained, because while in the world's time those events may have been very close together, in the show's runtime they were quite far apart. Thus, the use of this technique is simultaneously a blessing and a curse to this show. Combined with the memory and intricacy issues, this can make for an exhausting viewing experience, one you'll want to take breaks from. The person I watched the final season with felt drained after watching only one episode, and wanted to wait to continue another time. Yet this creates the same problems I touched on earlier, ironically making the show's dilemmas all interconnected. Okay, now we're at the final, less important qualms that I have with the series. The English dub is simply not good. If you're gonna watch the series, it's highly recommended that you watch in the original German with subtitles on. This can be troublesome, as it makes multi- or switch tasking while watching near impossible, although that veers away from the intended way to watch the series anyways. Still, if you take your eyes off of the screen for a second, you will certainly lose important details. Regardless, I wish they had better English voice acting. There's also a couple things that are never explained, such as the father of Regina and the letter Clausen got. The former of which seems as if it was simply shoehorned in to keep Regina from getting destroyed, which would get rid of Claudia's determination to undo the split. Whether Clausen's person who sent the letter was intended to be up for debate by viewers is unclear. So, editor's note, it turns out the letter is from Unknown, the son of Jonas and Marta, because he uses the same phrases that are in the letter at one point, which I think just goes to show you the amount of detail that went into making this series. Those are all the reasons I have as to why I should not like the series, leaving only why I still like it despite this. As I've said before, the series' major sticking points and strengths are also its weaknesses, that being the complexity and mind-bending time-traveling aspect. With each season, Dark manages to add to its encyclopedia of character connections. Every time period manages to have a huge number of events occurring within it that are integral to the story, and you're forced to piece it together. In 2019, a few months before the story begins, Michael, Jonas's father, commits suicide, and leaves a strange note with his mother that has a specific point in time it should be opened. This leads you to wonder, why is the time so specific? And why did Michael kill himself? Later in the first season, a boy named Mikkel disappears by the caves in Winden. The audience is made to wonder, where did he go? That question is answered when it is shown that Mikkel has somehow appeared in 1986. Soon he is adopted by a nurse, the mother of Michael. It is quickly revealed that he lived out his life in 1986 and became Jonas's father, killing himself because the stress of seeing his parents and past self drove him to take his own life. This is a huge revelation, one that totally changes our view of the world, as the girl Jonas is in love with is in actuality his aunt. Everything is connected, so the domino effect echoes throughout all of our known character connections. There's a mother-daughter pair who are both mothers and daughters to each other, which is all possible because of the sci-fi aspect of time travel. Almost nothing is impossible, it seems, and the time travel part of the story forces you to wonder what has or will happen. This is something traditional dramas can't accomplish, but the fantastical and bizarre nature of being a time travel show provides a special appeal and accomplishes things other formats cannot. Revelations are something that is integral to the appeal of Dark as well. Almost every episode goes with some type of aha moment, either big or small. For instance, the police find a raided candy bar in the woods near where all of the children have been disappearing. It's not shown until later that this very type of candy bar is something that Helga tends to eat. This isn't even something that I noticed the first time watching it. It was only on my second rewatch that some things made better sense. There's also a part where Ulrich tells a young Helga to bite bigger boys if he has to fight them. Then when Ulrich is trying to restrain him, he actually bites down on his hand. It's as if the show is completely built on rewatchability. The more times I review it, the better I will comprehend the complex web. It's something that draws me towards seeing it again, even now. I'm intrigued by the idea that my understanding of the series' various intricate parts could at some point be complete, if I only focus, stay attentive, and watch for the clues. Everything is important because it's all part of that knot. The theming of Dark is also something to be loved. Dark sets out to make things seem inevitable and to make you feel helpless, and succeeds over the course of 3 seasons. Nearly every character in the story attempts to resolve or unravel the time travel knot somehow. Helge goes back to stop himself from doing the experiments. Ulrich goes back to kill Helge. Jonas tries to break the 33-year cycle and save his dad. Marta tries to save Jonas. It's madness. No matter what anybody tries, it never seems to work. Helge continues his experiments. Helge survives Ulrich and ends up causing the scar we see in 2019. Jonas only ends up making his father commit suicide again. Marta fails to save Jonas. The point being, nothing within the loop can seem to stop the loop, not even Adam trying to kill the Origin. This brings up an interesting quandary. Can we change anything? Are we stuck on some predestined path from which neither by cleverness or pure willpower we can escape? This does not only apply to the show, but to life itself. The series poses a question to believers of destiny. It wonders if we are really so helpless, and our actions don't matter in the slightest. For nearly 3 whole seasons, it almost unabatedly said, we cannot change it. We cannot escape the path we are on. Honestly, for me, to some extent, watching the show was saddening, knowing after about a season that no matter how they flail, they cannot change it. What makes Dark genius is the subversion of this idea in its final moments. Finally, they can change things, and it only takes one moment to do so, right at the start of the apocalypse. They can break the cycle, unravel the knot, they can fix everything, rejoining the 2 worlds into the one it was originally. The only downside, everybody who was part of the knot will disappear, notably Jonas and Marta. Dark is simultaneously a show about learning to let things go, while managing to let your determination and sense of hope endure. Adam and Eve, they've given up. They no longer try to save each other or to disrupt the cycle. They are both disillusioned with everything. I think that Dark's story is fitting in an era where the newest generations are without hope and resigned to destruction and the terrible. Yet, in its final moments, it shows that if you regain that hope, push onwards, and maybe learn to let a few things go, you can succeed.
Im Sturz durch Raum und Zeit, Richtung Unendlichkeit. Fliegen Motten in das Licht, genau wie du und ich.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I do want to apologize for the little ratings and other things that might appear in the clips I used. I'll work on that for the next time. Audio inconsistencies are also there, and I apologize for that. It's just due to me re-recording some parts. I figured that at the end here I would talk about a few things that I really enjoyed about the series, but didn't have time to fit into the video. I really enjoyed how it ended. Beautiful ending, bittersweet. Didn't feel like the series droned on for too long or was cut short. It's almost as if it was built to be that 3-season length. Also, the actors they found for different time periods were so similar. They all fit the character. I found that astounding, frankly. I also love how Adam and Eve created each other, and the parallels of how Jonas to the stranger to Adam shows the 3 different lives that are talked about by both Adam and Eve. In any case, feel free to talk with me in the comments if you have some grievances or you want to talk about the show. I'm sure I'm going to be down there. And yeah, again, thank you for watching.